In your face, Milwaukee.
In your face!
And the silence you hear is Lambeau Field.
Milwaukee!
This is a homer. You ever told me I'm a homer?
The silence you hear
He's on his mic.
is Lambeau Field.
Why don't you put your pants back on, Slappy?
I'm not punching you in the face.
You can't talk that way and be taken seriously.
I rule. Quick throw, right sideline, intercepted. Down the left sideline, Jair Alexander, high stepping, end zone, touchdown! Jair Alexander, and the Packers lead it 16-7. Jacobs to his right, Reed in motion to the right side, and faking the handoff. Willis on a bootleg to the right side, makes the turn to the end zone. He's in for the touchdown. Malik Willis on a 5-yard touchdown scamper around the right end, and the Packers strike first. 9 to noon is in the air. That is Wayne Larrivee, the longtime Vikes for the Green Bay Packers, and my man delivers daggers. And there is your dagger! It is Minnesota at Green Bay Sunday at noon on KFAN, and this border battle is super compelling. And joining us now is the aforementioned Dagger. Looking forward to seeing you early Sunday in that cool press box food area for some coffee and a chat about the game, Mr. Wayne Larrivee. It should be a fun game, right? And good morning.
Good morning. Look forward to seeing you too, PA. I was excited about this as soon as we got out of the game at Tennessee. This is what it's all about. It's what it should be about. Vikings, Packers, first place on the line in the division. You can't beat it.
Did you think about dropping a dagger on the Titans on the Jair Alexander interception?
No, I'm not nearly as bold in my old age.
The victory over the Titans I thought was cool. When I watched the game back, the Titans were firing bullets early in the game, and Malik leads the team down the field. Then they have to settle for a field goal. Jeffrey Simmons and that defense gets to win a little bit too. But as everything settled in, Malik Willis and this running thing, I mean, he's really, really good at it, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. And the other thing, PA, that we didn't really know, he spins a pretty good ball. I mean, he spins it well. And they didn't ask him to do very much at all in the passing game against the Colts, and they really didn't have to. But they expanded the game plan a little bit this past week, and it wasn't that they threw a lot more passes. I think they threw 5 more passes, in Tennessee than they did the week before against the Colts. But it was kind of when they threw the ball. They threw it first play from scrimmage. And, so they showed the defense they were comfortable throwing the ball in early down situations. I think that made a difference in the game. And then Willis, he hasn't made a mistake. He never came close to making a mistake and hurting the ball club.
Kevin O'Connell said yesterday on this radio show, if Jordan Love returns, he wouldn't be surprised if the Packers mixed in Willis too. Would that surprise you if Jordan is good to go?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. But the creativity of Matt LaFleur and his staff. I mean, why not? Willis has excellent wheels. He rushed for 73 yards in that game at Tennessee. The problem with that, if you bring him in, is it like you're saying, okay, Wildcat, we're going to run it. But the thing that with Willis is if you did that, you could also throw it out of maybe a shotgun look or something like that. So it'll be interesting to see, but I guarantee you the wheels are churning on both ends, both in Green Bay and Minnesota, trying to come up with something that might hit on Sunday's game.
Wayne, do you have a gut feeling on Jordan Love? I mean, with the Rams on the horizon, this is a home game. It's a border battle. What's your gut feeling?
Well, I watched him work out early Sunday morning at the stadium down in Tennessee. He had Nate Weir, the trainer, was out there. Dr. McKenzie was there, but Dr. McKenzie didn't, he wasn't really watching him that closely, it didn't seem like. Jordan moved well, PA. I thought he looked great. And John Kuhn was down on the field with him, and I asked John how he looked. We thought maybe he's going to play today. And, of course, quickly after that, the inactives came out. But nonetheless, he looked good, and I think there's a good chance he could play this week. I'm sure he's going to be limited a bit in practice, but, if from a physical standpoint, it looks like he can move and make the throws.
What has impressed you with Coach Matt LaFleur during these two Malik Willis-led wins?
The creativity of his game plan. It's interesting. They ran 53 times against Indianapolis, but boy, did they dress up those runs. I mean, it was like Halloween costumes on those running plays. The game plan was essentially a 1970s game plan as far as running the ball goes. But they dressed it up. They had motion. They had half-loaded pistols. They had fully loaded shotguns. They moved people all over the place. They really disguised. They gave the defense a lot to digest pre-snap, and yet they were just going to run the ball again and again. And Josh Jacobs had a big day.
That I don't know exactly what you call the play. It was early in the game. Read option, maybe. Willis, he holds the ball in Jacobs' belly for like 2 seconds, and then he takes off around the right side, and he got close to the end zone. That play was fantastic, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. That read option, he carries it out very well. That's a lot of what they did when he was at Liberty. He's very comfortable with that kind of thing. And you're right. That play itself, I was amazed that he actually got the ball out of Jacobs, grasp and took it around the end. But no, this is the type of thing Malik Willis can do really well. But again, I wouldn't underestimate him as a passer either.
The Dagger, Wayne Larrivee, one of the great team play-by-play voices in the history of the NFL, calls games for the Packers. He's on the 9 to noon show in advance of Border Battle number 1. Vikings 3-0, Packers 2-1. Who? You're an elite football mind, Wayne. Who with the Packers? Who's the best receiver and why?
I really think the best consummate receiver is Romeo Doubs. He runs great routes. He's tough. He will get the contested ball. But the most explosive of the receivers, obviously, is Jaden Reed. Not only is he a great route runner, he has elite quickness. And in the open field, he will not be caught. So it's kind of a split between those two, I would say.
With new defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley and now a 4-3 base, is Rashawn Gary a major threat with his hand in the grass, or like as a left defensive end, or is that a work in progress?
Rashawn's been a little quiet from a statistical standpoint. He showed up big in the game down in Brazil. But it's going to be interesting to see how that develops. I don't know how to answer that question. I think in this defense, he is going to be a major factor. I really do. But we only saw this defense in one game, and that was last week at Tennessee. The previous 2 weeks, the defensive activity up front was more of a contain mode, and that was something we didn't see in the preseason. We didn't see at training camp in the joint practices with the Broncos and later the Ravens. We saw a very active front that was getting upfield, creating havoc in the backfield. That's what they did at Tennessee. But in the first 2 games of the season, they were playing quarterbacks who were pretty elite with their legs, and they were trying to keep those guys, Jalen Hurts and the quarterback for the Colts, in the pocket. And so we didn't see that kind of pass rush we saw Sunday in Tennessee. That's the kind of defense Hafley wants to play, what we saw last week.
Hey, Wayne, a few weeks removed from it now, but I haven't asked you on or off the microphone how that Brazil trip went. The last we spoke, you sent me a picture with some armed militia outside of your hotel room.
Yeah, no, outside of the buses at the airport when we got there, yeah. You know what? It went smooth. It really did. We flew down there and back, no problems. It was hard getting around Sao Paulo. That's a huge city of like 20 to 25 million, depending on whether you want to include the entire metropolitan area. But there aren't many expressways. I got to tell you this, Paul. I've never been in a situation. Now we're in a hotel in Sao Paulo. It took us, with a police escort, it took us 2 hours to get from the hotel to the game site. 2 hours on game night. And, we were winding through neighborhoods, one after the other. Some were nice, decent, middle-class type neighborhoods, and some of it was ghetto. And but I don't know. There was I've never seen a city that large without a number of expressways to get around it, and this one didn't seem to have any.
Wayne Larrivee, play-by-play voice for the Green Bay Packers, 9 to noon. Back to the current situation. All Xavier McKinney does is intercept passes. Holy cow! I mean, 3 in 3 games. What are you liking about him? Is it Xavier or X-Xavier?
He likes to go by Xavier, but X is how he markets his brand.
Oh.
So, either one, I'm sure, but Xavier is what he likes to do. The thing he's done, and we knew this coming in, when the Packers signed him, they became exponentially better defensively, regardless of what happened to everything else, because they finally had a safety of the caliber of Nick Collins for the first time since 2011 deep in their secondary. And the thing he brings, the instinct, obviously, to go after the football and the ball finds him. He's one of those guys. But secondly, he's a leader out there, and he is coordinating, rookie safeties next to him and coordinating that whole back end of the defense. And that has been as impactful as the interceptions have so far for the Packers.
Here comes showtime. They'll applaud him when they hear his name, I would imagine. They seem to adore Aaron Jones during his time with your beloved green and gold. Is that fair?
Oh, yeah. I'm really curious to see what kind of reception he gets. I think he'll get cheered. I really do. He's that kind of a person and had that kind of an impact on the community. Just a terrific, terrific guy and player. And boy, does he look good. I mean, I know he's getting 18 touches a game this early in the season. That's quite a bit. But nonetheless, he looks terrific, PA. He looks as good as he did at the end of last year when 5 straight games rushed for 100 yards, 2 of those games playoff games. No one in Packers history in the 100-plus years of the franchise ever did that. Not Horning, not Taylor, not Amon Green, or any of the runners they've had over the years.
Yeah, O'Connell's play-action game off Jones compared to Alexander Madison. I mean, it's just been night and day watching things back through 3 games. And speaking of the Vikings, Wayne Larrivee, what's eye-opening to you, Dagger, about this team's 3-0 start?
Oh, I think I think O'Connell has done a tremendous job with quarterback Sam Darnold. They have him in an offense that fits him. I don't think with whatever the Jets were doing, and they're a dumpster fire. Even today, with Aaron Rodgers at least keeping the fire to a minimum, they're a dumpster fire. So that was unfair. He gets drafted by the Jets' 3rd pick in the 18 draft. But I think the time he spent in Carolina with another dumpster fire, then he goes to San Francisco and basically sits for a year and learns this offense. And I know O'Connell targeted Sam Darnold to be the guy to come in and maybe be the bridge between now and the next quarterback for the Vikings. But this offense fits Sam Darnold, and you can tell. And he has elite arm talent. You don't get picked 3rd in the draft if you can't sling it, and he can.
Hey.
That's what's really impressive is the way he's playing. Now, on defense, I had to tell you something. I thought Florio did a tremendous job with that defense a year ago. He's got more tools to work with, but a lot of new guys, and to watch how they're playing and the way San Francisco couldn't get anything going because the Vikings were so quick. It's almost like they knew what was coming ahead of time. That's how well prepared they were. I think Minnesota might be, along with Green Bay, these are 2 of the best coached teams in the NFL today.
I'm with you on that. I have a lot of respect for Matt LaFleur and his staff. Jair Alexander and Justin Jefferson have had some terrific battles over the years. Do you think they have Jair track Justin and attempt to handle him one-on-one?
I think they might do that. They did that with A.J. Brown in Brazil, and they got mixed results. A.J. got his, Jair got some of his, but I think I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know what the game plan is, and I'm not supposed to know, But I would be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked. I'd be surprised. Let's put it that way. Mildly surprised if Jair is not on Jefferson more often than not.
That would be fun. Some here would say, welcome in, the water's warm. But Jair is all about being tough as nails. That would be fun. Time for a couple more for the Dagger. Has Eric Wilson been good for you guys? I mean, undrafted out of Cincy, he always made plays here when given the chance. I've always liked Eric.
We like him too. In our observation of him, he's excellent on special teams. That goes without saying. He's that kind of a player. But he is very productive. He doesn't get as many snaps. Like, what was it, 4 years ago, he started the season for you guys. He had like 3 interceptions, 4 sacks or something like that. He was outstanding. And, he's doing that stuff right now in Green Bay. They drafted 2 linebackers that are supposed to be playing most of the minutes and getting starts. But Wilson has been good enough to carve out a role in this defense. And I know Jeff Hafley, he personally really likes the player Eric Wilson. So you're going to see some of him. We didn't see a lot of him last week, but when he was in there, he made plays. That's what he does. That
Edgerrin Cooper, he might have a promising future. I know he's in and out because he's a rookie. He's a kid like all these kids. But Edgerrin Cooper, one of those rookies. What do you think?
Yeah, very good instincts. And you need that as a linebacker. Very good instinct and athletic ability. He'll eventually be a starter here. I think the Hopper kid out of Missouri is another really good athlete, sideline to sideline kind of guy. And there's a role for him in that defense at some point, too. But both of them are rookies. Both missed some time during training camp due to injuries. So they're probably a little bit farther behind than they'd like to be at this stage. But both are coming on. All
right. Sunday about 9:45 in the morning. Bursich and I will meet you in the food area for a coffee covenant, and we'll do a catch-up, okay?
That sounds great, PA. Talk to you soon.
Yep, you're the best. See you. That's truly the best. I mean, not only as a person, as a man, but as a play-by-play voice.
And there is your dagger!
Wayne Larrivee, I'm a fan. TimberTech, timbertech.com. What's on deck 9 to noon includes Vikes Bites around the corner. PFT, we with Florio at 9:40. Pressure Points at 10. And the greatest women's basketball player in state history, Lindsay Whalen, stops by the neighborhood around 11 o'clock, and she is our favorite L. I'm Paul Allen. Norder produces, and this is 9 to noon at FM 100.3 KFAN. Good morning.
A fan.
Vikes Bites.
Welcome back, 9 to noon. It is time for Vikes Bites, and that's presented by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. You can go to the website, thousandhillslifetimegrazed.com. You can take a peek and shop online, or you can go to your local Coburns, your local co-op locations, and they're proud sponsors of Gophers Athletics as well. So thank you, Thousand Hills, for providing us with Vikes Bites. And I went across the border, PA. Matt LaFleur addressing the media. I found some audio clips. What's on the mind of the upcoming head coach of our adversary? Here he is talking about the offensive line, what they need to do to cut down on penalties.
We got to be better with our technique. I mean, we've had some costly penalties that have shown up in every game. And certainly if it's going to come back to bite us if we don't get it cleaned up.
So the Packers, PA, they're 5th in the NFL in penalties, 5th most penalties right now at 23. And in this most recent game against the Tennessee Titans, they had 10.
Jeez.
6 of them via offense for 50 yards. So as we're looking ahead, we can look back in a moment to look at the Texans and look at how penalties really just absolutely crushed them in a few spots over the course of the game. Most notably, that drive with the 3 consecutive formation/false start penalties. Laramie Tunsil just wanted to leave, but he couldn't. They're in the middle of a game. And so something to watch. Penalties on offense for the Packers, it's been a thing, and the head coach is teed off about it.
The officiating staff that will handle the game this weekend is not quite as overly officious per the statistics as the Hockley group was in 2023. And to a certain extent Sunday at the Palatial Purple Paradise against the Houston Texans. But this staff this weekend is quite high on the defensive pass interference calls. Second I learned that, I was like, okay, are they going to single Jefferson with Jair Alexander? And this staff is number 1 or 2 in the league for most defensive pass interference calls. Welcome in. The water's warm.
Vikes Bites.
Vikes Bites! Could be testing that on Sunday. How about this? It could be Malik Willis. It could be Jordan Love. Here's the head coach on Jordan Love potentially being ready for the border battle this weekend.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I think anybody that saw what happened to him, I mean, that's a legitimate injury. So, he's working through it. He's doing everything in his power. He wants to be out there, and, we want him out there.
So that I assume that's going to be the vibe for most of the week. He did, and he has been consistent in stressing, did you guys see the video here? His knee was pretty jacked up, and we're doing what we can with Malik. In your conversation with Kevin O'Connell yesterday and later today, if there's time, not sure yet, but if there's time, Brian Flores talked about it in his press conference. And again, it hurts to laud the opponent, but him mentioning how LaFleur is a West Coast guy, Flores, and you might hear the audio later, that he's a West Coast guy, but then in a matter of days able to transition to RPO, zone reads, and effectively change the entire offense for this new kid on the block, that it's nothing short of remarkable. And LaFleur is going to keep these cards close to his vest as we approach the border battle on Sunday.
Is that the potential of coach speak?
That is the potential of coach speak.
Yes, coach speak. Flores, Daniels, Phillips, Daniels, Flores, and here they are.
Was that a cock crowing?
Yep, 3 times. Which means Green Bay has a problem. What are we talking about again?
I don't know.
Jordan Love.
Jordan Love.
I ain't tripping on him. Okay, so yeah, we'll just end it right. Yep.
Okay.
Well, I'm not tripping on either one of these quarterbacks. Now, when O'Connell hit us yesterday with it wasn't like don't be surprised if they use both. It was like we will be ready for both. Okay, well, we've heard that a million times, but we'll be ready for both potentially playing in the game.
Yeah, that's nutty.
Yeah, Dagger was like, I'd be surprised. Dagger's an elite football mind. Yeah, it doesn't generally go that way, but how diabolical would it be for Matt LaFleur if he uses Love and runs him and uses Willis and passes with him? Flores will never see it coming. Never see it coming.
That's some 4D chess type of stuff.
Yeah, we'll see. I didn't think Jordan looked that great in the Philly game. I thought he found his feet, middle of the game, middle-ish of the game, and made some good throws. Jordan Love's talented. The Minnesota Vikings operation, Jordan Love caught in the penultimate last year. That, I think the penultimate, very deep in the season.
Yeah, New Year's Eve.
Yeah. These guys ain't them.
Right.
These guys ain't them. This ain't Jaron Hall rolling out there, getting pulled at halftime. So these guys ain't them. Aaron Jones carried Green Bay through the final 5 games of the season and 2 postseason games. Love complimented him. If it's Love, it's Love. If it's Willis, it's Willis. Flores is like, welcome in. The water's warm.
Vikes Bites!
Have you checked the children?
Were you ever asked back to do the what was it, Valley Scream?
Yes, I declined.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Valley Scare.
Machine.
It was years ago. Hey, at least Cordero Patterson didn't score the first touchdown of his career in that game against the Bills. I want to do Valley Scare. The way they dressed me up with the makeup and the fact that I have I like to startle gene.
Yeah.
And I actually legally and support and in support got a chance to jump out from behind things and scare people, including Minnesota Vikings special teams coordinator at the time, Mike Prefer. I'll never forget when he walked into that smoky room that I was in, and I was hiding behind some pillar, and when I saw him, he didn't see me. But then again, I had makeup on too, and they did a good job with that makeup at Valley Scare.
They did.
But most of the bit was, have you checked the children? Or your daddy can't help you now. And that got under the skin of a couple of kids, which was the point. But with Prefer,
I think that would have been a perfect side gig for you too, by the way. It's always kind of like,
I need another one, right?
Well, yeah, you need a fourth and fifth job.
Yeah.
But it's like, wow, what if I wasn't in radio? What would I be doing?
Yeah.
You scaring people at a haunted house or some sort of Halloween related theme park?
The best.
We found the fit.
Well, speaking of side gigs, I mean, if you don't start some type of barbecue business with your expertise, I would suggest maybe professional National Football League gambling, because the work you did on us via the Pro Pick'em Challenge last week is ballyhooed. It's ringing true throughout the facility. So much so, when you walk in there tomorrow for the Pro Pick'em Challenge free with an MVP card, get that MVP card. I think Teddy P just might be, or Randy Sampson might be in the valet area with a card key to the money room. And just say, go in there and take $3,000 and don't come back for 2 months. Okay, that's how sharp you are with these picks.
And I would graciously accept. Vikes bites.
Oh, with Prefer. So I jumped out from behind a pillar. Ah! Oh, I got him good. PA, your daddy can't help you now.
Here's LaFleur talking about depth behind Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith. Led to 8 sacks on Levis and the Titans.
I think the best teams typically are teams that, especially the best pass rushes, when you have a lot of people that are capable, the more you can keep those guys fresh, I think they all benefit from it. I mean, we had 8 sacks in a game. I can't remember the last time I've seen 8 sacks in a game. It's been a while.
So, PA, as you're putting together the depth chart, now 8 sacks, that's a fat number, right? Well, they have 11 all season. So that tells you that there was something that they found, a button they pushed, and they kept pushing it on these ratty Titans, these winless, awful Will Levis-led Titans.
No, they're not awful. Mark my words, they are not awful. You got to watch the game back to. I mean, they were at home and they were desperate. They played a large portion of that game in a fashion that was good enough to win. And Levis actually looked really, really good a fair amount of that game. But the Jair bit deflated the sideline, and then there were just a couple of misses. So I ain't turning this into Mike Keith's Tennessee Titans fan line. That these Titans aren't as bad as people think.
Well, but what is it? I mean, they have 8 turnovers through 3 games. PA, their defense. I mean, their defense is something to behold. Their defense is 5th in the NFL in yards, but they're 25th in scoring. So, from an offensive standpoint, I'm with you that the team's not awful, but there has to be there's a massive disconnect. You got the new head coach, Callahan, I think.
Yeah.
He's already been out. He was out after week 2, basically saying, I mean, a quarterback is doing stupid things on the field.
Yes.
The pick 6 in each game so far. There's been a turnover that effectively ended the game.
Yeah.
For the Titans, but I
didn't like the way Callahan handled that. I'm glad you brought that up. Because he was caught on the sideline saying, Will, your daddy can't help you now. And then he went out and threw another pick 6.
And that's your job.
Stop scaring the kid, okay? Stop scaring the kid. Just let him be himself, damn it.
But the depth, as you're putting your game calling depth chart together, PA, it's and during pressure points, I want to hit on Kenny Clark in more detail. He has terrorized the Vikings for the duration of his Green Bay career. But he mentioned Rashawn Gary. He mentioned Preston Smith. And it is kind of interesting. I want to know or get an idea of what exactly these guys with Hafley have coming for the Vikings. Because if it is going to be 4-3, but they're going to be lined up in different spot, what is it? Enigbare, Kingsley, and Devontae Wyatt. I mean, everybody, again, they had 8 sacks on Levis. Everybody was getting in on the action on Sunday, but the previous 2 games, whether it was against the Bears and Caleb, and or not, they haven't played. Excuse me,
not
but
the Colts.
The first 2 weeks, there you go.
Yeah,
they
$3 bill Anthony Richardson.
Then they had 3 total sacks in those games. So pressure versus coverage. I'm really fascinated with what we're going to see from the new D coordinator on Sunday.
It's a 4-3. I saw it when I watched back some Packers plays. O'Connell verified it yesterday. They come out with, just think, when Zimmer was here and we had the standard Everson over there, Daniil here. Let's say you got Williams Wall in the middle. You got Kendricks.
Are we mugging?
You got Barr. You're mugging the F gap. Wait, that's Dallas. You're mugging the A gap. You got 3 linebackers. You go nickel. You got 2. And Rashawn Gary is left defensive end. I'm just telling you, Wayne kind of said it. It's weird. It's just it's not it right now. Doesn't mean it won't be it this weekend or during the course of the season because Rashawn is super gifted. But they have the proverbial hand in the grass, and then they stand him up, and he gets in there around the right tackle like his hair's on fire. Of course, Levis holds the ball too long, and his daddy can't help him now, and Gary blasts him. Now Devontae Wyatt. All right, now my man was a little slow to go in his career. It was that year they took Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt.
Yeah, like 20 Georgia kids got drafted, it felt like.
I think they went 22 and 28, and Devontae was the latter of the two. I thought Devontae Wyatt was just okay early in his career. He's a menacing presence right now. He's a menacing presence. And I don't know if they start him or they sub him in behind TJ Slayton or Kenny Clark. I'm pretty sure they do that. They got a nice little three tackle situation there. Kenny Clark's coming off a career high in sacks. Slayton, everybody's on Slayton's jock right now. O'Connell was yesterday. I've read some things from Green Bay. Wes Phillips was. He was on his jock too. If we get to coach speak, I think it was Wyatt, maybe it was
on Slayton. You mean
Slayton? Thank you.
Yep.
Maybe Wes also was falsely glorifying the 6'4" middle linebacker Quay Walker. Hey, we'll take our chances there. But Wyatt, Slayton, and Clark, man, Devontae Wyatt's really gotten himself good. So the beef eaters are all good in the middle. Preston Smith, this guy's the bomb. He's the absolute bomb because, I didn't watch him that closely in Washington. And then when he bookended Za'Darius, it was Z who generally would get the headlines. Preston Smith has a couple of sacks this year. He's embracing that right defensive end 4-3 bit. Then he stands up. He's super tall. My man's played linebacker and defensive end all of his career. He has 5 interceptions. His first interception, 2019 from Cuzbuzz. 2016 from Bradford. So he's all over picking off Minnesota quarterbacks. 2016, when he was with Washington, he got Bradford. 2019, here, he got Cousins. So from that spot as a rusher to have 5 interceptions, man, I got a lot of respect for Preston Smith.
Vikes Bites. Thank you, Thousand Hills. ThousandHillsLifetimeGraze.com for that grass-fed beef. And we'll revisit this at 10 o'clock.
Yep.
I got some more border battle bits for you.
Mike Florio, PFT, next, KFAN. Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com. Sunday's Football Night in America on NBC. He's also part of the Peacock Covenant, and he's an author. His most recent book is called Son of Mine, and he joins us now. These undefeated Minnesota Vikings are betting underdogs again. Now, they've been dogs 3 in a row and opened as underdogs at the Giants until the Sharps from Wheeling, West Virginia got involved and smashed them to slight favorites. Are the Minnesota Vikings underappreciated at 3-0? And good morning.
Vibe. There's a uncertainty that it can be sustained, although you could make the argument they're the best team in the NFL right now. I had one of my writers make that argument with me yesterday when I suggested putting the Bills ahead of the Chiefs. Long story short, Miles Simmons said, why not the Vikings? And when you look at the 3 games, splattered the Giants, dominated the 49ers, even though the final score was only a 6-point margin. It could have been a lot worse. Fumble at the goal line forced by Fred Warner. It would have been 27-7. Who knows where it goes from there. 34-7 against the Texans. And I had an epiphany on Sunday morning when I was thinking about the game. The Texans were a playoff team last year. They were 10-7. They just kind of quietly won games that, a good team should have won. They weren't spectacular. It wasn't the greatest show on turf. And that Flores defense gave Bobby Slowick's offense the same kind of fits it gave Kyle Shanahan. So let's put it this way. Go to Green Bay, beat Matt LaFleur and company. I can't remember what week it was in 1998. I'm tempted to say it was week 5 when they went to Green Bay on a Monday night.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the moment everybody first took the Vikings seriously. This is an opportunity to be taken seriously, coupled by the London trip and a reunion with Aaron Rodgers, and then slide into the bye week. These next 2 games, if they go the right way, it's impossible to hide. 5-0 going into the bye, impossible to hide. But let's see what happens. And I think the attitude is they still need to prove it.
Down memory lane we go. 1998 was the year that I moved to Minnesota full time. My first full year at KFAN. But the first Vikings game I ever.
It was week 5. It was week 5, and it was right before the bye.
And that was
that was the night that Randy Moss went off.
Yep.
The Randy Moss coming out party.
That was the first Vikings game I ever had attended, and it was raining a majority of the game, and then it got really misty late, and the Vikings were killing the Green Bay Packers. And you're right about Moss; it was the cliched coming out party. But Brett Favre was taken out of the game in the fourth quarter, replaced by Doug Peterson, who was his backup and obviously won a Super Bowl with the Eagles, but now the Jags coach. That was a very memorable evening. There might have been 4,000 people at Lambeau Field with like 2 minutes to go in that game. Never seen anything like that, Michael.
Doug Peterson, the Jags coach for now. You know, he was 3 games away from becoming the first coach to ever win a Super Bowl with 2 different teams. 8-3 last year. The wheels have come off. They're 1-8.
Right.
The owner, right before the season started, said this is the best Jaguars team ever. We want to win. Doug Peterson could be available to be hired by the Packers or anybody else as a consultant soon if they don't turn it around and win a game.
Yeah, that was awful, and it was part of that 2-game overlap. What'd you think of that 2-game overlap Monday night?
I don't like it because I relish the opportunity to watch one game at a time because I never get to watch and focus on a single game. I get it Monday and Thursday, so I can't say never. I rarely. The game's on Sunday. It's nonstop trying to pay attention to everything at once. It's information overload. Sunday night, watch the first half. We do videos and stuff in the second half, and then I catch up and try to figure out what the hell happened and watch the fourth quarter. Monday, Thursday night, I get to settle in and really focus on the game. So I didn't like having 2 games. But the best part of it is if one of the games stinks, the other game is insurance. And if it just would have been Jaguars-Bills Monday night, 47-10, how do you make it through to the end of that?
Oof.
So it was good to have another game that ended up being exciting. I still don't like it. We did a poll on Twitter. I don't know how scientific it is, but when more than 32,000 people respond and 2 out of 3 say they don't like it, I think there's something to be said for this notion that people don't like it.
If back to the Vikings for a second, Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com. If they keep kicking butt on defense, you think Brian Flores gets at least 1 call for head coaching next year?
Here's the problem, and this is not going to go away. And surely he knew when he filed the lawsuit in February of 2022 what the potential ramifications would be. And I'm surprised he's even risen to the level of defensive coordinator. Kudos to the Wilfs for bucking what would be potentially awkward moments because Flores sued the Dolphins, the Giants, the Broncos, the Texans, and the league. And it still hasn't gotten off of square one. I've got some information based on some recent developments I'm going to be posting later today. The fight continues. Fighting over where the case is going to be resolved continues. The arbitration process has commenced as to some of the claims. When you consider the closed shop nature of the National Football League, very insular, very protective, I don't know that there's an owner out there that would be willing to essentially put a finger in the eye of all of his or her partners by hiring Brian Flores. That's wrong. It shouldn't happen. It would create fresh liability for the NFL if it did. But I know how these companies think. I handled cases like this on both sides. When you get sued, and you in this case is the NFL and the 32 independent businesses that are all under that same umbrella, they circle the wagons and they curse the person who dares to come after them. And they dig up a bunch of stuff that they can use to throw at that person. They convince themselves the person is evil, and they don't want to do business with that person. That's why it's impressive that Mike Tomlin hired Brian Flores right away. It's impressive that the Wilfs allowed Kevin O'Connell to hire Brian Flores. And it'll be extremely impressive and stunning, frankly, if an owner steps out of ranks and hires Brian Flores. Again, that would be wrong, but if it happens, it will represent a 180-degree break from what a normal company would do in those situations.
Well, that was beautifully laid out. And now with this current team, speaking of Flores, the identity of the Minnesota Vikings is that of offense. I mean, that's generally where the best skill guys are. Darisaw got paid, Jefferson's high end, Hawkinson's on the men, so on, Aaron Jones, so on and so on.
Jalen Naylor, baby.
Yeah, right. Touchdowns in 3 consecutive. The defense has been stealing shows, giving up 10 points per game, all those sacks and picks. Maybe we have a little Mike Ditka, Buddy Ryan thing developing here. Wouldn't that be cool?
Well, yeah, as long as you can hold it together. Now, don't get ahead of yourself. But the Mike Ditka, Buddy Ryan vibe, Richard Dent puts it best. The Bears of the mid-'80s won a Super Bowl because of Mike Ditka, and they won only a Super Bowl because of Mike Ditka. Now, Buddy Ryan got that head coaching job. This comes back to what we were talking about. When will Brian Flores get hired by someone else to be a head coach? Will that happen? If it doesn't happen, the Vikings have potentially several years of O'Connell and Flores working together. And right now, I mean, you can't 3-0, and the wins they've had, it's kind of hard to hide, and people are waking up to the idea that O'Connell and Flores are the best 1-2 offense-defense combination out there. And, we'll see how it plays out. But, look, I've got 50 years of experience when it comes to believing in the Vikings, and the moment I believe is the moment that somebody's Achilles tendon pops. So I'm not going to believe until they finish a journey that they've been trying to finish for 60 years now.
Yeah, 60 some odd years. Did you update the PFT power rankings? And if so, where do the Vikings land?
I update them every week.
I can't find them.
The Vikings are number 7. Is that too low?
No, that's perfect. I just said, I'm old guy, me, couldn't find them. Okay, cool. That's good to know.
They're available at profootballtalk.com and on our various social media platforms. And
how
search power rankings in the search box.
Wow. So one of the victories for the Vikings was over the Niners. They lose Javon Hargrave for the year. You got Christian McCaffrey heading to Munich to have a doctor look at the tendonitis. I mean, the 49ers are unraveling a little bit right now, aren't they?
This reminds me of the last time they got to the Super Bowl, lost to the Chiefs. That next year, the wheels came off. Injuries. They didn't even make it to the playoffs. Now, they recovered from that nicely, but lost to the Chiefs again last year, and injuries, starting with McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel. Now you've got Hargrave. Brock Purdy's got some sort of a back thing. That's why I don't want to not have anything to do from March until September. But so much of what we do collectively as media during the off season is really meaningless, because when you try to assess if a team's going to be any good or not, the one great factor that we have to ignore, because no one has a crystal ball or a functioning Ouija board, the injury dynamic changes everything. If the 49ers are healthy across the board right now, they're 2-1 or 3-0. And a team that you have to pay close attention to. Injuries are going to bite someone every year, and they change everything. And the teams that can stay healthy and or the teams that can thrive through injury and that have that Belichickian vibe of no excuses, next man up, we expect the same level of achievement from the backup as we got from the starter. It's easier said than done. And that's why, one of the great things Belichick did when it was going well for the Patriots, a lot of money paid to veteran backups who were ready to go when the injuries did happen. That's the key. Who gets injured and what happens when the injuries start to occur. That changes everything. And we saw it for the 49ers 4 years ago, and we're seeing it again this year.
PFT.
Well, Jaden Daniels is the best of the bunch out of these rookie quarterbacks so far. He's quite the calm kid. He's so calm. What do you think?
Oh, it's not just calm. It's happy.
Yeah.
Smiling and loose. Kind of reminds me, remember Anthony, well, this is before your time, but some of your audience will get this. Anthony Carter was always kind of smiling and happy when he was playing, and John Madden would praise him for that. And look, it's a business, and it's rough, and you're one play away from potentially serious injury at any given moment. But there's a certain joy to being in that moment, and Jaden Daniels has it. And he's relaxed and he's loose, and I think it speaks volumes that with the game essentially on the line, up 5 points, 3rd and 7, in range for a makeable field goal, but who knows? Last weekend was the weekend that the kickers throughout the NFL forgot how to kick. Throwing it deep to the end zone and getting that touchdown and dropping that perfect pass in there. I mean, that was a thing of beauty. And that we talked about Randy Moss and his coming out party in 1998, Week 5. It kind of felt like the Jaden Daniels coming out party. Now, they're not undefeated. They got blown out by the Bucs Week 1. I think the Commanders have a lot more to do to get people to believe. But, man, for fans of that team that have been dealing with years and years of Dan Snyder-fueled crap, it was a happy occasion on Monday night to see that they got something, and they may have a guy who's better than Caleb Williams. It's hard to tell right now because Caleb Williams doesn't have the help around him, primarily the offensive line. But boy, it's neat to see it unfold for the Commanders.
What in the heck happened to Zimmer's defense down Dallas way? I mean, it's permitting a gaudy 185 rushing yards per game, and that's more than just catching strays, Mike.
Well, yeah, I don't know. What can we say? I don't want to get any text from my good friend Mike Zimmer. Chris Sims said that basically his defense is outdated. The double-A gap stuff, like everybody knows how to attack it. And when you don't have great run stoppers, when you are scrambling to sign defensive tackles weeks before the season begins, it's almost like free agency started for the Cowboys on September 1. Like when you're doing all that, what do you expect? What are you going to have? And so they're weak up the middle. And the way to beat the Cowboys, and I know this is true of most teams, once you get up a couple of scores on the Cowboys, that's it. And once they get up a couple of scores on you, that's it. It avalanches either way. But the Cowboys are not built to come from behind, and they are built, if things go well for them early, to build a lead and hold it. But 275 rushing yards surrendered to the Baltimore Ravens, that's inexcusable. And it still doesn't mean that, Zimmer won't end up the interim head coach at some point, because if Mike McCarthy gets the boot during the season, Zimmer's the most likely replacement to play out the string until Bill Belichick or whoever else shows up.
Now, wait a second. I was going to say goodbye. This story that I'm reading here at PFT that you posted just a little while ago about that UNLV quarterback, holy kid, this is awful. I mean, because there's a side story that UNLV satisfied all of the name, image, likeness, NIL type stuff. And now you got a parent, now you got a family member, like indicating that somebody is outperformed. What is this?
I haven't seen that part of it. All I've seen is the Matthew, what is it, Sluka or Skula? I don't know. It was somebody I'd never heard of before
This is terrible.
I saw the story. But the bottom line is, with this new NIL reality, you have commitments that are being made, and the commitments need to be honored. Mm-hmm. And if there's a dispute, then the courts are going to figure it out. That's why the courts are there. There are contractual disputes all the time. And when we now have NIL collectives, Florida State's been sued by a Georgia quarterback who transferred when his NIL commitment didn't come through. That's the way to handle it. Civil justice. That's why they call it civil. You don't show up at somebody's house with a shotgun. You sue them. And that's what may need to happen here, and maybe it all gets worked out. Maybe UNLV will sue the kid if this extra little codicil you mentioned that I'm not aware of and we'll get on right now is accurate.
Yeah, it's I read something that it feels like UNLV purposely leaked something like, no, all the NIL was satisfied. His group is feeling he has outperformed it and they want more. So, yeah, that's a juicy one for you there.
Get it in writing. Make it clear, leave no doubt or misunderstanding. That is something that should apply to anyone that is doing anything based upon promises made. Get it in writing, sign it, file it away, and if the crap ever hits the fan, you pull it out and you say, here it is, pay me.
Anything new with the book, Son of Mine? Any autographed copies or anything that you'll be giving away soon? I know you do that periodically.
I try to do it every weekend, once or twice a week, or a copy of each one. And, you know, we're moving it along. I mean, it's a slow burn, but more and more people are reading it. They're enjoying it. They're flying through it in a couple of days.
Good.
I got some other projects in the hopper. You know, I just keep turning out content, and I don't have the proper time to figure out what to do with it. That's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great hobby that I love doing. I cranked out about 2,600 words last night in 2 hours. Like, when I settle in, I can really fly.
Yeah.
I just the business side of it is a real challenge. So we just keep going forward, and there will be more and more. And I really do enjoy it. And, you know, we just see where it all leads.
ProFootballTalk.com.
Oh, I started a third one, too. I'm working on 2 books now at the same time. I'm probably defying all conventional wisdom as to how to properly go about writing, but I'm working on 2 books because I wanted to do a third Father of Mine or a third book in the Father of Mine series, and I started it, and I'm just going to keep pulling the thread and see where it goes.
ProFootballTalk.com. It's on the right.
You're trying to get me off the show, aren't you? I'll just keep talking.
No.
All the way up to your hard break. Did we blow through your hard break?
No, I don't have a hard break, but
okay.
I'm trying.
You just want to get rid of me.
No, I'm trying to promote something here, man, because I hadn't seen this. So ProFootballTalk.com, Son of Mine, middle of the page to the right. The Kindle price is $4.99. Paperback 14. Yeah, this is very affordable. And
$4.99. Let me tell you something. For anybody who buys electronic books, you'll realize how stupid it was for me to only charge $4.99 for it. And you can get Father of Mine, the original, for $3.99. So you get both of them for $8.98. You can't get one for less than $9.99. At least, you know, something new. Like, you can find older books, you know, yada yada. But and look, I just want to give people a chance. I get fulfillment when I hear from people who read it and like it, because people do read it and they do like it. I'm used to being in a very polarizing world where half the people get pissed at me for what I write at PFT, and half the people are either, you know, neutral or not pissed or happy. With this, it's a nice way. It's, you know, it doesn't stir up trouble. It doesn't, you know, get people riled up. It's just entertaining and enlightening. And I enjoy it when people enjoy what I've written.
Sounds like an offer people can't refuse.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah.
Just make sure you don't wake up one morning with the head of one of those horses that you love so much in your bed.
Well, as long as I cashed a bet at 10 to 1 or higher, I'll take my chances. All right, see you later.
Bye.
Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com. Nordo put together some pressure points, and they're coming up next.